welcome to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him at gods5minutes@gmail.com. Now, here's Ed Wilson with God's 5 Minutes.
Hello, friends. The first 4 verses of the 82nd Psalm read, God standeth in the congregation of the mighty. He judgeth among the gods. How long will ye judge unjustly and accept the persons of the wicked? Selah. Defend the poor and fatherless. Do justice to the afflicted and needy. Deliver the poor and needy. Rid them out of the hand of the wicked. The opening verse of this psalm could be read, God stands in the assembly of the courts of justice, or as the practice of monarchies once was, the king is in the king's court. God's original plan had been to govern the Israelite nation by judges rather than with kings, with these judges to be called and directed by his Spirit. The language of this psalm can be taken as an admonition to those judges who had been appointed by King David or his successors that he had not abandoned this presence as silent listener to every conversation taking place under their jurisprudence. The phrase God standeth in the congregation indicates that while the court's human judges ruled as they would on matters before them, God also was taking his stand or making his ruling on every one of them. While he has given space for earthly judges to have their day, he has also set a moment for calling every one of them before himself, judge, jurors, advocates, those on trial to give account to him according to eternal law of right and wrong. He has reserved to himself the terrible authority to sanction every good decision and punish the misguided, unfair, or evil. But the admonition of this psalm is not restricted solely to the echoing chambers of a courtroom. He is exactly the same concerning every situation in which one person exercises power over another. The second verse asks a question, how long will ye judge unjustly and accept the persons of the wicked? This is a warning. Every sinner is gambling against time, that while judgment is sure, it will not come today. God asks, how dare you? How long can you keep that up before something terrible happens? To have one's past life filled with hurtful deeds of wickedness and cruelty is to have a dread apprehension riding on one's shoulders that drips dark and bitter poison into the sweetest of life pleasures, a certain fearful looking for of judgment and fiery indignation. But the warning does not present itself as universal and unavoidable. The merciful Lord gives clear and reasonable instructions of how to render judgment, matching his in the transactions we have with our fellow travelers through life on this planet. Selah can be interpreted, stop and think it over. God's judgment will always be to defend the poor and fatherless. We can do that too. There are many ways to defend those that are disadvantaged in life. Job described how he had done so. I delivered the poor who cried, the fatherless, him that had none to help him. I caused the widow's heart to sing for joy. I was eyes to the blind and feet was I to the lame. So ponder with me for a moment what it means to do justice to the poor and needy. Babies and criminals and riverboat captains and beautiful maidens and soldiers and nurses all get hungry. Each of them need a warm blanket and soft pillow when night comes down. Each can benefit from a cup of cold water timely offered. This is so because God made us each one to have needs, and his doing it makes it just that our needs should be met. Jesus' whole life and ministry taught us if we are generous about touching the needs of others, we would not lose our reward. We none of us have the power to right all of life's injustices. There are people who have been cheated out of careers, property, reputation, with new names added to that list every hour. But we can be a force for good in the world, doing what we can to uphold the right, looking around about us to see those who have need, and being fair and just in all of our dealings, a justice that is tempered with kindness and generosity. That is the true message of this psalm. Have you talked to God today?
You have been listening to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him by email at godsfiveminutes@gmail.com. Tune in next time to hear more encouraging thoughts from God's Word on God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson.